Hello, today we're going to go through 1.3 organizational objectives, and we're going to be looking at these bullet points today in this presentation. Yeah. Okay, so common business objectives. So all businesses, they have to set objectives, and these objectives, they really vary in relation to where the company is headed, or what the company wants, or if it's starting, if it's already stable in the market. So if your company is starting, you're going to be focused obviously on survive and break even, because you won't be really wanting to be operating on a loss. You also have cost minimization, to when you get your fixed cost, your variable cost, and you try to minimize it as much as possible. This is generally when you're already profiting and you want to actually profit more, but without actually raising the price of your product or service, in fear to losing any customers. So you try to cost minimize. There is also the growth stage, which objective, which is generally when your company is not really stable in the market. There is profit maximization, when the goal essentially of your company is just to profit. So it has some concepts of cost minimization, but it's slightly different. And there's also pride satisficing, which essentially means that you achieve enough profit to make the owners of the business happy and to pay fairly your employees, but you're not necessarily profit maximizing. Okay, so strategic and tactical objectives, and what is the difference? Okay, so in my opinion, this pyramid is very good because it really shows clearly. So goals are general statements of what the business intends or wants to achieve. So I'm gonna give you guys an example. Let's say that Apple, their new company goal is to, as a whole, create the new iPhone or the new iPad. So then this is the primary goal. This is on top. And then you have every single thing that will help them achieve the goal. So the objectives are statements with specific outcomes that need to be achieved in order to reach this goal. So in the case of the iPhone, it would be, I don't know, the objective is to develop a new camera, a new CPU, a new component that will make the new iPhone different from the previous ones. A strategy is a plan which the business is trying to achieve. So I don't know, maybe the strategy for the new iPhone is make it more sustainable or more clean or whatever. So they will try to uh, go with this strategy, and the tactics is more of a short term way of how to achieve the specific that strategic goals or objectives. So it is more of, so each one you go developing into the other until you get into the final one, which was your goal. So now we have the difference and what is a mission and a vision statement. Okay, so a mission statement is essentially a company justifying what they do in the current market and their value. So for example, Nokia, their mission statement is connecting people has always been and continues to be our reason for business, which justifies Nokia is a telephone company, so it justifies which they connect people via their phones. And yeah, and Google is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful, justifying their search engine with information, and yeah, justifying their market position. Okay, so a vision statement defines where the company sees itself to moving to in the future. So a vision statement is always going to be about the future. So that is a thing that you can use to remember. Vision, you look into the future. Mission is now. What is your mission now? So Heinz is our vision, quite simple, is to be the world's premier food company, offering nutritious, superior tasting foods to people everywhere. So you see, they're not necessarily justifying what they do now, because Heinz, they sell a variety of products, but I believe they're most famous for their ketchup, for their mustard, their mayonnaise. I know that in England they're very famous for their beans. So they have a variety, but it doesn't say really. It just says that they're a food company which offers superior tasting foods. And yeah, so it doesn't justify anything, it's just a vision for the future. And Ford is our vision is to become the world's leading company for automotive products and services. So again, looking into the future because they're not currently the world's leading. Okay, so these are some mission statements. Not necessarily a homework, but I think a fun activity you guys can do. Pause this video and search the mission and vision statement of your favorite companies, and you can see that they are really different from each other and that one justifies and the other looks into the future. Okay, so ethical objectives. An ethical objective is a deliberate attempt on the part of the company to take a position which is viewed morally correct and appropriate in the eyes of the stakeholders. Okay, so what does that mean? For example, ethical reducing pollution by using more environmentally friendly processes. So, as I said, I gave briefly an example with the iPhone, but you can use any other company. For example, Shane. Shane, they aren't a really sustainable brand, but let's say that one day out of the blue, they wake up and they say, no, we want to become a sustainable brand, we want to change our brand image, and we want to become a sustainable brand. So they could potentially try to change this around by setting objectives and goals of, I don't know, only using sustainable clothes or only use sustainable I don't know what, only paying their workers fairly. So there are a lot of ethical things involved in fast shopping companies such as Shane. So most decisions they have moral and ethical dimensions, such as should a multinational firm operate in a country that imposes harsh working conditions? In the case of Shane, they pay their employees really badly, so that is an ethical consideration and potential objective. And should tobacco or alcohol producers be allowed to sponsor events where young children may be in the crowd? So, for example, but this is a question more in general. So a football match should be sponsored by, I don't know, Marlboro or nowadays vape, self bars. Should it be allowed? And unethical environmental neglect, exploitation of the work for the workforce. This is a quick definition of what is unethical in relation to business. So evaluation. There is considerable stakeholder pressure to do the right thing, and you see that that is not. It's generally it is not really clear what is to do the right thing, but for public perception, that really affects the brand to do the right thing and to have a great brand image. So it is a way to differentiate itself from the competition and improve customer perception. And employees are motivated and still stay longer. So let's say if you work for a company that pollutes the ocean, you live near California or the Bay, and you really love the ocean, but you work for a company that you actively know they don't care, they pollute the ocean, so you won't be motivated to work for that company because that company goes against your personal values. However, it does tend to increase costs and therefore lower profits, and it can be difficult to find suppliers who have the same ethical stance. So, in the case of Shane, as I said, they have very cheap suppliers, so they would have to probably change their suppliers, and that would probably make them make their prices higher. So it will have a cost for everyone. Shareholders may not be happy to have less profits and less dividends. Okay, so corporate social responsibility or CSR. So CSR applies to those businesses that consider the interest of society by taking responsibility for the impact of their decisions and activities on customers, employees, communities, and environment. CSR is the further complicated when dealing with businesses that operate on a global scale in different countries. So, what is acceptable in one country may not be understandable in others. So, you really have to, if you want to start a business, you really have to think about that and the country that you're starting your business or the way you're marketing your business because your corporate social responsibility might differ from which country you're advertising or you're operating in. Okay, so benefits and drawbacks of CSR. Okay, so the benefit is the image is improved with a green or socially responsible approach. So you enter in you broader your niche. So you get other customers of which they want this image and this social responsible approach, and attracting this attracts or helps keep motivated employees who they really want for your business to succeed and they really want to work for this socially aware business. You have essentially no bad publicity and pressure group action, so that is really good. And you could have better relations with workers, suppliers, customers, and local communities because they identify with your mission and with the responsibility you have in the community or in the country or even in the world. And this could lead to higher profitability, but not necessarily drawbacks. So the costs could increase, which would hurt your profitability. Shareholders may not accept lower profits in short term. A loss of cost and price, and competitiveness. Rivals are not in CSR and have lower costs. So yeah, companies who they do not have this responsibility, they can do whatever they want, and they really their prices are generally really lower because they can use cheaper suppliers, but their suppliers probably pollute the most. Could be a backlash if claims to be socially responsible are found to be false. So if you really want to claim that, you really have to demonstrate that it is true and that you are actively participating and helping the community or the environment or whatever you claim to be your social responsibility. Okay, so CSR and change firms in behavior. So a survey ranking the most ethically perceived brands. So these are in the UK, the US, Spain, and yeah. So this is in 2007. So a long time ago. So this may have changed, but people, for example, they might feel more compelled to buy Coca-Cola instead of Pepsi because they saw that Coca-Cola is responsible. They, I don't know, donate 10% of their revenue to whatever cause. So they might feel compelled of purchasing the Coke instead of the Pepsi. Two examples of the benefits of adopting a CSR approach. Okay, so these are two different cases. Nike has adapted well to the UK led campaign that accuses it of employing child labor with very low wages and poor conditions in developing countries. It was proactive in coming out with a clear CSR strategy and the appointment of a director of sustainable development. However, perceptions do take a long time to change. So, despite them changing and appointing this new director, perceptions they really take a long time to change. So, yeah. Struck by criticism after the release of the film Super Size Me, McDonald's has responded positively by taking certain sweet fizzy drinks off the menu and introducing low fat and low sugar options, including fruit for its Happy Meals targeted at children. So this specific film, it is I think it's a documentary if I'm not mistaken, which shows people who eat McDonald's every day and how they are and yeah. So this really hurts the public perception and public image of McDonald's specifically. So that's why these appear simple changes, but this really helps their public perception and yeah. Drawbacks of pursuing social responsible approach. There are statistics that per pod to show the beneficial impact of CSR on a company's profits, but they are not yet overwhelmingly convincing. So this could help, but this could also not help, and it's not 100% sure that it will help. And the cost of compliance with environmental audits or preparing CSR strategies may take up valuable time and resources of your company. Okay, so corporate social responsibility examples. These are some examples. I won't really go through them. If you guys want to pause, you can read them. Okay, so environmental and social audits. So an environmental audit, these are the definitions for them. It assesses the impact of a business impact on the environment. A firm, they can choose to carry out an environmental audit if they want. They are not necessarily it's not necessary. Given the growing concerns of climate change and threats to sustainability and forests, an environmental audit can form part of an organization's commitment to a socially responsible objective. And a social audit, it has nothing to do with the environment. It is an independent report on the impact the business has on society. So not necessarily only inside the company, but outside, how it helps people. So this can cover pollution levels, health. So if Pfizer or pharmaceutical companies, they decide, no, we're not operating anymore. So this will have a social cost, which will be very high because we won't have access to healthcare, vaccines, medication. So yeah, they have a so they provide us with a lot of social benefits, these companies. And yeah, these are other examples. So currently neither environment or social audits are compulsory. They are also expensive to produce and publish, which does not make it feasible for small businesses or those that are cash strapped. So these are really for big companies. So after the millions, billions of dollars, it may be interesting for companies to come out with these reports. But if you're a small local coffee shop with a mission of helping, you won't necessarily have the money to make these audits, or it will be very rare that small companies have money, which is where expend the money to pay for these audits, which are very expensive. Okay, so these are some activities. Okay, so now we go into the high level topics. Changing business objectives. So business can change their objectives over time. So like it's pretty straightforward that when your business is starting, you're gonna have one objective or one goal, and when your business is more consolidated, you're gonna change your goal. So it will be in response to internal factors such as resource constraints or external factors such as changes in social and economic environment. So some of the more significant reasons for changing their business objective include a business may have satisfied their survival objective, as I said. An important senior manager who was in charge for international expansion might leave, and a temporary focus on the domestic market may be needed until a replacement is found. So, people leaving, people staying, these factors sometimes, if it is a very high person or a very high employee, which is very highly regarded, this can change the objective of the company. And the external is the competitive market or the economic environment may change in the country you're operating or whatever, and you will have to switch from the growth objective to the survival objective because you don't want to lose your business and you can't be spending so much on advertisements and whatever. So a short-term objective of growth in sales may be replaced by a longer-term objective of maximizing profits from higher sales. Okay, so firms, they need to be flexible enough to be adaptive into the internal or external changes, but they should not be changed too dramatically or frequently before making a significant change to objectives. Senior managers need to consider, is this change significant and long enough to warrant a change in objectives? Or what would be the risk if not changing the objective? Or even what would be the cost and other consequences of new business objectives for the business and its staff? So these are the main objectives, and how can objectives and strategies need to achieve them be effectively managed within the business? Okay, so changes in corporate responsibility. So attitudes towards corporate responsibility, they have changed over time drastically, to be honest. And the standards that companies are expected to reach are determined by the social norms, societal norms. And in most countries, these now focus on stakeholders rather than shareholders. And the main reason for changing corporate approach to social responsibility include increasing publicity from international pressure groups that use the internet to communicate, such as blogs and fundraisers and organized protests. So this may be a reason to change. The UN Millennium Development Goals, which was agreed by 120 countries, includes the environmentally sustainable growth and the global concerns over climate change and the impact this could have on social and economical development is forcing some companies to confront these climatic consequences over their actions. And this could impact how they invest or how they use their money in order to change their brand image and their social responsibility to try to increase their brand image and keep or obtain more customers. So legal changes at local, national, or even European Union level, it may force businesses to restrain from certain practices. So another example from Apple, for Apple, is that the new iPhone, it has a new charger. Why? Because the EU determined that all phones need to have similar charge ports, and that Apple's was the only one. So they were by the EU, they were forced to change to USB-C charging, which had multiple studies have already shown it is a more efficient way of charging your phone. Okay, so changes in corporate strategies. So the changing corporate strategies of the world mining companies are an excellent example of how firms may adopt different strategies toward their social responsibility in response to pressure. So in the 1970s and 80s, multiple mining companies they signed a mineral extraction deals with some undemocratic political regimes, and environmental concerns were given very low priority, and the interests of local or indigenous people displaced by the mine workings were ignored. It is very different today. Yeah, guys. Today, thank you so much. I believe this is the end of our presentation. I hope you guys have enjoyed, might have learned or enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.